welcome. I'm glad to see y'all here on a Saturday, afternoon now. Hope you were able to learn a lot throughout the conference. This presentation is going to be geared more for parents and understanding higher ed. So a little bit about myself. My name is Melissa Martinez Dominguez. I've been working in higher ed since I graduated from college. Even whenever I was in college as an undergraduate student, I help high school students and parents understand how to navigate the whole higher ed world. Currently right now, I am the education chair for a Latinos in Progress program that is by HWNT, the Hispanic Network of Texas. And I also am the assistant director, one of the assistant directors at the University of Texas in Arlington. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. So this presentation that I'm gonna have for y'all, typically, I wanna say it's gonna take about 20 to 25 minutes. So if you have questions, definitely do not hesitate to add them in the chat. I may not be able to see them while I'm presenting, but we will definitely have time at the end where I'm gonna be able to answer your questions. So, sorry, I went a little bit ahead, but this is basically what we're gonna be discussing today. So we are gonna be discussing why higher ed, starting early, financial aid and scholarships. And I know you did have a presentation, but I wanted to touch a little bit about financial aid and scholarships just because it's so important. And then choosing the right path for your student. Okay, so what is higher education? I think when most people think about higher education, they typically think, university or college, but honestly, it's anything after high school. So if they decide to go to college and university or community college, trade school certifications, that is all higher education. So why pursue higher education? So currently, 39% of Tarrant County adults have an associate's degree or higher, which if you think about it, is not a lot compared that 65% of living wages jobs require education beyond high school. So this basically means like for students to be successful, they most likely have to get something other than just your high school diploma, which is why I'm a big advocate into like getting your certification, going for a 2-year degree, or even a 4-year degree. Going to university or college or any kind of trade school is honestly gonna help you a lot. There are gonna be a lot of jobs. There's gonna be more jobs and opportunities. For example, if you go to a college or university, you're gonna have networking, you're going to be able to become more well-rounded as a person. There's going to be resources, internships, study abroad opportunities. Those are just some resources that students are able to have if they go to college, university, whatever path they're deciding to go to, right? I can tell you personally, if you're trying to find an internship, it is way easier to do so if you're a college student. I also told my students, I'm like, they ask me, why should I go to college? And like, yes, go to college. You're there to get your degree. That is super important. But honestly, the most important thing is that it does help you become a well-rounded student because it helps you develop as a person. And someone asked, is that a rooster? Yes, we have roosters in my backyard. So they are constant noise and every single virtual meeting that I've been having this year. Okay, as a parent, what should you be doing? So these are 4 tips that I definitely advise you to take some guidance. So my first tip is don't pressure your student to pick a particular school. The reason why you don't want to like pressure them because that's just going to add additional stress. Be more understanding, definitely ask them questions of what they're looking for, but don't pressure them to go to one particular school. Something else is don't compare your child to others. I can tell you, I am the oldest of 4. And I definitely saw this happening within my family. And it's a discussion that I had to have with my parents to not compare me and my siblings because we are all going through different things. We all have different passions. So you really don't want to compare just because it adds even more stress. And trust me, high school students are already stressed enough. The third tip is probably like the most important, which is discuss affordability and detail. So be transparent and honest about the family finances. You don't know how many high school students I have asked, what is your family income? Because when I was an admissions counselor and I helped students with financial aid, or I was trying to figure out what kind of programs they qualify for, that's typically like one of the #1 questions that I'm going to ask. And a lot of these students didn't know what their family income was. So you need to like let your students know, that way they can see what they qualify for, where they stand, and also that way they can kind of see what they can afford. So they can kind of get that, you know, like that, what's it called? That line of thinking that, okay, if I want to go to this university because of my family income, maybe I'm not going to get enough financial aid, but that just means that I have to like think about scholarships. So you want to be as honest and transparent with your students, as well as helping them learn how to budget and manage finances. Because whenever they're in college, a lot of them are going to have financial aid packages, and a lot of them don't know the differences between like loans, credits, and that is information that they need to know. I think that's one of the biggest problems a lot of college students have, is that they don't know how to budget, or they don't know how to do finances, because it was never taught to them in high school. So definitely that's something I definitely advise for you to start talking to your students about. And then last, be supportive. Be supported by allowing your students to go to college tours, or even taking them to college tours, to college fairs as well, encouraging them to go and volunteer, be in sports, school organizations. These are things that are going to help them at the end. I can tell you with my mom, like I said, I'm the oldest of four. And even though she didn't have a lot of time because she's had to take care of my siblings, she definitely made the effort to drive me to my volunteer events, to college tours, or even like gave me permission to go visit colleges. And because of that, because I knew how supportive my mom was in particular, I was able to kind of see what I wanted. Okay. Something I wanted to show you as a parent is that I feel like parents don't realize how important high school is, or more like how everything in high school is super important. I feel like most parents and students think senior year is your most important year, and it is, but not really. Honestly, the most important year for students is going to be junior year, and like I said, overall, because you want to start thinking about college pretty much your freshman year, because freshman year, that's when you can start exploring your class schedule. So you want to choose the right classes for your student. You also want to start doing a career exploration. So what exactly are they interested in? And also getting involved, like I said, being involved in sports, student organizations, volunteer, it helps them their senior year whenever they're applying for scholarships and programs. The high school transcript, this is like where you set up your foundation. I don't think most people realize how important the high school transcript is, especially if your high school assigns class ranks. So here in Texas, most high schools assign class ranks. So basically there's the number one student, and then, you know, the number one student is usually the person who has the highest GPA. And the higher your GPA, the better the chances of you getting into a particular university or college, and even getting more financial aid or scholarships. So you want to start off strong. That way you don't have to worry about it your senior year. 10th grade, which is your sophomore year, that's when students start getting hit with those questions about college, especially because they take the PSAT. If you don't know what the PSAT is, that is basically the practice exam for college entrance exams. It is a type of test. They typically take it, I want to say, during their fall semester of their sophomore year. And like I said, it's just a practice. That way they can kind of get used to it. That's also the year where they can start taking AP classes. If you don't know what AP classes are, they're basically advancement placement classes. So there's only certain classes that are available. And as they go further along in the years in high school, more classes might become available. But basically, they're in the class for the entire year or maybe for the semester. And at the end, they take an exam. And if they make a certain score on that exam, they get college credits. So it's definitely a way for them to start preparing for college and also get college credits. And then track accomplishments. You definitely want to encourage your students to track their accomplishments, because like I said, those accomplishments, those organizations that they are involved in, it's going to matter their senior year. There's going to be questions and scholarships and admissions application where they're going to ask, what have you done? What kind of scholarships, what kind of volunteer service have you done? How many volunteers hours are you going to have you done throughout high school? Has there been any awards that you have won? And most students, they don't remember, everything. So you want to keep track of that and start exploring colleges. And like I said, junior year or your 11th year is probably the most important year, just because that is the last year where colleges or universities are going to look at. Whenever your student is applying their senior year, that transcript is only going to be from 9th to 11th grade. So this is like the last year where they can get their GPA as high as they can or their class rank. 11th year is typically also the year where they can take dual credit classes. Dual credits classes are basically your student is getting high school and college credits. Like I said, focus on grades, start reviewing colleges. So start reviewing which are going to be like your top 5 schools, and then start attending college tours and fairs. That way you can get more knowledge and more information about those colleges your students might be interested in. Also, I put 11th grade for that's fall semester. For spring semester, definitely start exploring scholarships for your senior year. So start looking what the requirements, what you need to be eligible for, how the process is going to be. That way you kind of know what you should be expecting your senior year. There are some scholarships that are going to be available throughout their high school, but most of them are going to be for senior year. But like I said, you want to start preparing for those scholarships. Also start exploring external programs. For example, like I mentioned, I am education chair for a education series called Latinas in Progress, which is a program that senior Latinas can be involved in. And it's a program that they apply their junior year and they take advantage their senior year. And if you want information about that, I can definitely drop the link at the end. That way you can read a little bit more about it. Other programs that you can explore for your students are like SAT or ACT prep programs. I definitely took advantage of those programs whenever I was in high school. I remember they were hosted by TCU, and they were during the summer. And they helped me prepare for the SAT or the ACT. And then take the SAT or the ACT. If you haven't heard these terms, they're basically the college entrance exams for your student to go to college. There are 2 different styles of testing. There's the SAT, and then there's the ACT. Like I said, they're for the same purpose, for your student to go to college, but they're different styles of tests. So I always recommend students to take both tests and then retake the one that they feel more comfortable with. And you can retake this test several times. I always recommend for your students to retake them, because what colleges do is that they will take the highest score and the highest scores for every single test they have taken. So it's always a good thing to retake these tests. I always recommend to take it 3 times. That way you have different scores to show. And then lastly, attend admissions presentation. As an admissions officer or counselor, I can definitely tell you, we go visit high schools. Even now with like everything happening, we make sure to go visit high schools. That way we can let students know what our admissions process is and what they should be expecting their senior year. So you want to encourage your students to be attending these admissions presentation, especially for the schools that they're interested in, because during these admissions presentations, the admissions person is letting them know what the requirements, what they should be doing, especially their senior year, and what kind of majors, what kind of resources the university might have for them. And senior year. So senior year during the fall, that's when you apply for admissions. And honestly, for a lot of universities, you can apply as early as in the summer. And I always recommend students to apply during the summer, just because the way that senior year is, it is already busy. So you just don't want to feel overwhelmed. So just get it done during the summer. But when I mean by summer, I mean the summer between the junior and the senior year. Typically the application opens up around like July 1st. Other than that, meet your admissions with admissions at the university that your student might be interested in. That way you can know resources, requirements, eligibility, all of that. And then keep track of deadlines. Every single university is gonna have different deadlines for admissions, for scholarships, for housing. So you wanna make sure that your student is familiar with deadlines. I definitely recommend for y'all to have a calendar. That way you can kind of track what deadlines are coming up. Apply for financial aid, which we will talk about in a little bit, and which you already had a presentation about. And then track your applications. So whenever your student submits an application for whatever college, they're usually going to have access to something that is like a student portal. On their student portal, they're going to be able to check the status of their application. So if they're missing any documents or if they need to turn something in, that student portal is going to have that information. And I can tell you, as someone who worked in admissions, there are so many students who don't realize that they're missing documents or such as like paying the application fee. And because of that, they don't have a decision and they're basically like in a little like time loop, like they don't move on until that taken care of. And students don't realize until it's too late. And by too late I mean that they miss like scholarships deadlines and other important deadlines that they could have definitely benefited from. During the fall of their senior year, spring of the senior year, that is whenever they start applying for scholarships. Typically, like the bigger scholarships, they're gonna open up in the end of fall, and they're typically due around January. The reason why is because usually they have a long process for that for big scholarships. It's also, like I said, start looking for scholarships, start completing those holes in those to-do list on the student portal, compare financial aid letters. So try to see which school is giving your student the most financial aid and which one isn't. And then orientation. If you don't know what orientation is basically happens during the summer of the senior and the first year as a college student. Usually the student gets to go on campus, learn about the university, the traditions, but the most important thing that happens during orientation is whenever they sign up for classes for the first time ever. So that is like the next step after deciding where your student is gonna go. Okay, so I know you already had a presentation about financial aid, but I just wanted to touch a little bit about it just because of how important it is, especially for parents. But I wanted to talk about the different types of financial aid that your student might be awarded, which is grants, which is basically need-based funds that the student does not have to repay. And then there's work study. Work study, basically a lot of the jobs on campus are gonna be work study. So in order for your student to qualify for these jobs, they do have to be awarded work study. It just basically means that their job is being funded by the financial aid or the federal government. And then there's loans. And there are so many different types of loans. As y'all know, loans are money that you do have to borrow and then you have to like return back. But like I was mentioning, there are so many different types of loans. So if your student is ever in a position where they have to get a loan, I definitely recommend to go talk to the university's financial aid office. That way they can explain what kind of loans are available for your student. For example, there are loans where interest isn't cumulative until your student has graduated from college. There's loans where it's just a temporary, emergency loan. So you want to know what kind of loans are going to be available for your student. So how do you apply for financial aid? There's FAFSA and then there's TASFA. They basically work the same way in the sense that you're letting the government know this is how much money the family makes per year. And basically what each university is going to do is they're going to review their financial aid, and based on the financial aid, based on the family income, they're going to give the students financial aid. And these applications are going to be sent to every single school that your student is applying for. And every single school is going to give them different financial aid letters. So it's super, super important to be applying for multiple schools, not only their dream school, because like I said, every single financial aid that they get is going to be different for each school. The main difference about FAFSA and TASFA is that FAFSA is going to be for citizens and permanent residents and some visa holders, while TASFA is going to be for undocumented or DACA students. So, and an important date that I want y'all to remember is going to be January 15. January 15, because that is the priority date for financial aid statewide. So I always recommend students to have everything done for admissions and for financial aid by that date, January 15. And the reason why is because financial aid does run out, especially if you are a TASFA student. And when I say by run out I mean that the free money runs out quicker. Let's say your student applies and doesn't get done until after January 15. It doesn't mean that they won't get financial aid. They probably will, but most likely they will have more loans than grants. So, more money that they have to borrow, not free money. So that's why it's super, super important to have everything done by January 15. So there's also two different kinds of scholarships that are available for students. There's internal. So something I've seen a lot of students do is that they concentrate too much on internal scholarships. By internal scholarships, these are scholarships given by the university to students. So for example, like academic scholarships, scholarships based on your major. And I told students, it's great that you're applying for internal scholarships, but don't forget about the external scholarships. External scholarships are outside scholarships, so scholarships that organizations, nonprofits, corporations are giving away. So for example, if you're from Fort Worth, the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce usually has a scholarship every single year. There's the May scholarship. These are all scholarships that your students can apply for. And they're typically 1 year scholarships, but I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot reapply. And something else is that scholarships don't just end their senior year. They're gonna be applying for scholarships pretty much every single year that they're in college. There are gonna be scholarships available for them whenever they're in college as well. Last, choosing the right path for your students. So whenever it comes to making decisions, definitely select the top 3 schools that your student has been accepted to and start making decisions by comparing the size, location, majors, and resources. For example, I only applied for 5 schools, and I only applied for 5 schools because they had the program that I was interested in. And then I started having like a discussion with my parents about what they wanted, so that way I can kind of consider it as well. And I know for example, like my mom, she didn't want me to go far away. So I made a whole compromise with her of going to a school that wasn't too far away, but it wasn't close enough to home. And so we had that discussion between us. Also comparing financial aid letters, like I said, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So every single school that your student applies for for every school that your student applies for, you're going to be receiving a financial aid letter. And every single financial aid letter is going to be looking different. So you want to start comparing which one is giving you the most financial aid. And you need to look at the cost of attendance. Whenever you think about the cost of attendance is including everything. It's including tuition, housing, meal plans, books and supplies, all those little fees. Tuition is just what you're paying for classes. So you really want to look at the cost of attendance, not only tuition. And typically for financial aid letters, the student won't receive them until the spring of their senior year. So if they haven't made a decision and it's March, that's okay. That's honestly, I feel like most students don't decide where they're gonna go until like the end of April or even like May. Like I personally didn't make my decision of where I wanted to go until May, because I was waiting for financial aid and for scholarships. That way I could make a final decision. And then last, consider community college. I know, especially for like right now, there are so many things happening that we don't know what's gonna happen next. And there's nothing wrong with going to community college first, because students can transfer later to a 4-year college if that's what they're looking for. Community colleges also have certifications that your student can get. For example, I know for TCC, they have the RN certification that's pretty popular. So start looking at community college and see if that's an option as well. And that basically concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
If you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask Melissa your questions.
And is everyone here from Fort Worth? Is everyone here from Fort Worth? Yes. Okay. So something that I like about Fort Worth ISD or Tarrant County is a lot of high school nowadays have a career center or a career and college center. Definitely take advantage and or let your students know to take advantage of that resource because they help your students and you navigate the whole higher ed process. They can help you with admissions applications, applying for scholarships, financial aid, and they usually have a lot of events that you can attend where you can kind of like understand a little bit more of the higher ed world. Because honestly, the presentation that I gave you just now is the bare minimum. I didn't really talk about a lot. I tried to put as much information as I could in this presentation, but without being so overwhelming. And if you're a parent who has their first student going to college, it is pretty overwhelming at first, just because there's so many things. For example, like for me, like I said, I'm the oldest. It was an adventure to say the least because my mom and my parents, they didn't know English, so it was just me figuring it out. But now that I was able to go to college, I definitely was able to help my younger siblings. So right now I do have a brother who is a sophomore and another sister who's a freshman in college. And I can tell you they definitely had an easier process than I did, just because I was able to help them navigate the higher ed world. And I did put a link on the chat, and that is the LIP education series that I was talking about. So if you know any juniors who are about to be seniors and they want to like get more involved, definitely suggest for you to share that resource. It is a great program, and something I didn't mention is with this program or this education series, there are scholarship opportunities. Like right now for our class of 2021, the students have turned in their applications and the scholarships vary, where our biggest one being the TCU Community Scholarship. And I think the lowest has been like 500 or 1,000. So definitely suggest for y'all to look into that education series. Other than that, does anyone have any questions? So for students who, okay, Jocelyn, are you from Tarrant County or Dallas County? Tarrant County. So what I always tell students is school is your best friend. And I know you probably have heard this multiple times, but what I would suggest is to look up Tarrant County scholarships. That way you can start finding scholarships. And you can even go to the Fort Worth ISD page and see their scholarship bulletins, because what I like about Fort Worth ISD is that every single month they have a package of scholarships available. And typically the ones highlighted in blue are county scholarships or like local scholarships. And a lot of them are Tarrant County scholarships. And that means that you're eligible for them. So definitely look at to other districts. There's nothing wrong with you into looking like to other schools or other districts' websites to see what they have available. Something I forgot to mention is start contacting the admissions office for the university or colleges that you might be interested in, because I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of admissions counselors. As an admissions counselor, our job is to help you navigate the application and the financial aid process. And if they are not able to help you, they can definitely direct you to the right person. Take advantage of all the events that are happening. There are so many virtual events that are happening because of COVID. So that basically means that your student is able to attend like a virtual event for San Antonio or for University in San Antonio or for like somewhere in Austin. So take advantage of those events. That way your student and yourself can become more knowledgeable about other universities, not in the DFW area. Any other questions?
And also for Jocelyn, we are recording all of these sessions. And so you'll be able to also reference all of our scholarship talks from the morning as well. And those aren't specific to Fort Worth, but there is a little bit of a slant on Fort Worth and on TCC, but they tried to be very generalized in what they shared with everyone this morning.
Mm-hmm. And usually if you want to find out information about like a certain university, like I said, Google, just let's say Google UTA scholarships, and that website will pop up and it will let you know like all the requirements for the UTA scholarships. Or let's say you're looking at UNT scholarships, it's going to tell you what scholarships are available for your students to apply for. All right, everyone, if no one has any questions, I think we're good to go. If you have any like last minute questions and y'all want to ask me privately, feel free to email me. My email is, I'm gonna put it on the chat. That way you can have it. Thank you.